Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today, Page of Pentacles. A lot of work in the tangible space today, masculine and feminine. This is probably moving forward due to the fact that we saw that for a lot of the energy right now in the divine union frequency, there's been a lot of work in that modality of nuance, finding that comfort point, finding that point of moderation. And we did see there was a little bit of that energy that felt like it was a bit of a struggle, right? Needing to navigate what felt like the unhealed inner child coming up in circumstances or situations right now has been really important, because there's that point of observation and coming into a sense of moderation right now that we're seeing that is even pointing to some feelings of difficulty. And the heaviest difficulty on this right now is for the energy in the divine union frequency. Because again, it's not necessarily motivating you into a deepened connection. It's almost creating right now a nuance or a refinement in terms of how to get or how to move towards your long-term manifestation goals. For feminine, it was having to rush forward a little bit, but not too much. Finding that comfort point, and again, taking a little bit from the page from the masculine energies book, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Finding that way to amp things up to a certain degree, again, is something that feels like it is very productive right now. And why is the feminine feeling like that in the divine union frequency? Because this is feminine energy feeling the gift of masculine that is always consistently putting a lot of care and energy around the feminine as it relates to the feminine's own comfort level. For masculine energy here, your own ability to do this right now, to navigate spaces or places where you may be feeling that need to rush forward, right? And having to curtail it to a certain degree for the feminine, it is creating, I'm not going to lie here, we're seeing here there's a frustrating space that's potentially opening up for a lot of the masculine energy, even in the divine union frequency. But what is popping up in the space of you effectively curtailing that energetic frequency that is trying to rush you forward? The unhealed inner child. That side of you that gets frustrated or demands things, as opposed to recognizing what feels like it is in the benefit of the partnership, is now almost creating an expansive experience for a lot of the masculine energy in the divine union frequency, because it is learning to experience that heart opening as even at a moment that you are curtailing on your own passions. It's Lent. What can I say? I'm not surprised to see this energetic frequency coming in right now. So we see here to a certain extent that what is happening is masculine energy's own ability to come into a state where, again, you are curtailing on your desire center, and that in itself is leading to an emotional or energetic expansion, is masculine feeling, again, the beautiful gift of being in divine union is a gift that creates an understanding of the self. So even feeling that right now for masculine, this is masculine, that is what is doing, putting that care and attention back towards the feminine. Because this is that energy of the masculine realizing that they couldn't reach those points without the energetic signature there to, again, slow them down. What is feminine having in the divine union signature? That sense of, again, feeling those new opportunities that are opening up around them, because, again, they're moving forward. They're taking that note from the masculine and they're rushing forward a bit more than they typically would. They're taking a little bit more of that reckless risk energy, right? Both energies building on that sense of receiving from the other, but again, being pushed a little bit energetically in a direction that you may have felt a little oppositional to, but not too much, just a little bit. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is effectively why we see that energetic signature led to a lot of energy moving deeper into the heart of the divine union frequency a lot faster right now, because effectively what we are seeing at that point is seeing how you navigated that conflict space. Same energetic signature coming through for the energy coming into divine union, seeing something that you both had the same desire, the same goal. One had wanted to do it one way, one wanted to do it another. There was some energy that potentially went into separation over these circumstances or situations. But for the energy that saw the benefit, saw the gift in being able to moderate one's own desire for the sake of the other, that was suddenly feeling and recognizing the full weight of the divine union that's effectively taking place. Because what is effectively happening there? It is that sensation of feeling like you are putting someone else's needs before yours, but again, not in a way that feels like it is energetically exhausting and draining you, because they're doing the same. Perfect alignment. So we see that even now for a lot of the energy right now, this is why we see that this is an amplification, escalating plans, moving things forward in an even faster degree that you may have even intended. Because again, much like the energy and separation, we almost see energetically here that there's something about the signature that almost like amplified or started off saying like, we're not going to rush forward on this. We're both on a healing journey. We're going to take this really slow. And that recognition point is now creating the breakthrough that's effectively allowing this energy to realize how well it complements each other. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. You may have felt like you had to push yourself forward this weekend. We saw that a lot of the energy was sitting there and they were feeling that for us, there was a combination. It was like the perfect alchemy, like the perfect combination effectively of energy that both felt the weight of the grief that they were carrying around situations and circumstances wherein they felt like they could not change something, combined with that fire energy that was pushing you forward, almost forcing you out, saying like, you can't sit here. You can't just sit here and feel frustrated or sad. It's not serving any positivity. It wasn't conducive to healing. So even the energy that was sitting in a space of grief, that felt that energetic call or signature, that felt like it was amplifying you forward, almost helping you find that sense of going to find energy. And it may have felt a little bit like dragging your feet, like, I know I have to go do this thing. I don't feel like doing it, but knowing that you were doing what you knew was best for you, instead of sitting in the energetic low frequency that you found yourself in because of a connection that you were trying to repair, is now amplifying, finding energetic signatures that are on the same journey. So this is either allowing right now that breakthrough of activation, being able to, again, come into someone, being able to bring forward to you what you are effectively seeking, that path of understanding, or this is leading to new energetic connections. Continuing to get clarity on these cards right now. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is our 6 of Wands in its reversal. See this negative being turned into a positive here? See that difficulty allowing for that point of opportunity that's coming through? Masculine and feminine energy right now that are in the divine union frequency. This is that gift or ability about, again, navigating the frustrations and utilizing them to help you find those productive path points. Even now, we see that there's something here that feels, it's heavy. It's almost like feeling that sensation or that weight or that anxiety of care that is coming into situations or circumstances. And we see that even now for the divine union frequency, it is amplifying a lot of the efforts in the tangible space right now. So I have to stress, I have to say, even I have, the thing with the energetic equivalent of divine union is it doesn't necessarily immediately always result in you feeling like you're hitting that like hooray moment, right? Because we saw that through the act of recognizing and wanting to come into balance with the self here, it feels like there's some energy here. It feels like a little bit of that sacrifice energy coming in. It feels like that moment, and it's okay to feel a little bit of this lowness. That's okay. It's that moment of feeling a little bit of that weight of like immediate frustration in terms of what you are effectively desiring, but you're keeping your focus on the horizon point. You're working through the space or place of identifying what it is that you feel is actually the goal here, what your own prioritization point is. And what we see and identify for a lot of the energy operating in the divine union frequency, that gift, that amplification of giving forward, it almost immediately feels like the energetic gift that you're offering the other, because it is the beautiful gift of seeing. And I need to stress this. I need to stress this part. This is not coming through as someone saying or articulating and saying, look at all what I do for you. Look at this. Look at, no. It's that sense of self from within in terms of understanding and someone just seeing in a very clear way the hurdles or the difficulties, and someone recognizing and identifying and seeing in another someone who quietly goes through those moments and offers it back. It's not something that feels like it needs to be harped upon. It doesn't feel like someone needs to like sing like a song about how much they're giving up here. It is the observation and seeing it in action. That gift that we give in terms of balancing and observing that in the energy of the divine union, someone who you can observe and see goes that extra mile, puts in that extra effort, not for the sake of being celebrated for it, not for the sake of going like, wah, about it, but just for the sake of the fact that they recognize that that is their effort and energy of true care. That in itself is where we see that the fortification comes right now in the energy of the divine union, because it is that act of giving that's not asking for something back in return. Now, masculine and feminine that are coming into the divine union frequency, this is being amplified right now as well. That sensation, that effortlessness, what is happening here? This is energy that's effectively giving forth in this way. And it does feel like that point of energetic surrender to a certain extent, right? This is that commitment. But look at the beauty of this commitment. The energy that's coming into the divine union frequency right now is understanding that that energetic signature is not something that can be given. It is something that you give up. And we recognize even now that that ability to understand that the care and effort that we put, the understanding that moving into divine union means that that care and effort and energy is one that you're always mindful of preserving it beyond what feels like it's immediately in your sense of personal gratification and fulfillment. That is the gift. That is the true intentionality that we're seeing here for a lot of the energy coming into divine union, because this is almost someone energetically saying to another, I see that your expression of love for me is in those moments that are the quiet, nameless points where I see that you're always mindful. You're always putting my needs first beyond the needs of the self. So we're seeing here that a lot of energy is coming into the divine union right now, and it's a lot of that deepening of connection. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. If you went through this weekend and you were dragging your feet, you were like, I don't really want to do this. I don't really want to go there. This was that breakthrough point, if you will, because what we're effectively understanding and identifying here is even now, holding space, allowing yourself to do the dual path work of recognizing that you can be in a space or place of feeling that sense of surrender towards circumstances that you feel like you've put everything you energetically can in, but you can't necessarily do that in a one-sided fashion, is almost that moment we're seeing that energetic equivalent of allowing for spaces of new potential positive connections to open up and thrive, because this is the energy that's effectively saying it's not my responsibility to force someone to come into connection with me. This is that sense of understanding that when they're ready, they know where to find me. And that ability even now, potentially moving forward, is why we see that a lot of energy right now is potentially either, again, coming into a sense or an understanding of what you needed to learn about the past self. Now, for masculine energy right now, I'm going to say it again. I don't want a lot of masculine energy that's going through this process right now to get overly feeling that sadness or that frustration about the actions of the past self, because we saw a lot of that work rising up yesterday. We want to make sure that that's not a moment that you let yourself get low, taking that as an activation point, recognizing that your own observation and changes of how you may have done some things in the past isn't a mark against you. It is showing an internal calibration in terms of recognizing the benchmark that you're setting for yourself now versus who you may have been in the past. So even now we're identifying that that is effectively building that sense of encouragement. Even now, that is leading to something that feels like it is productive. And that is either coming into pathwork of healing, being able to offer something to past circumstances and situations that you now understand. Or it is coming through right now in a space or place of recognizing that this is something that you can take forward with you. But again, holding space for like the grief that may be attached to particular lessons. Now, feminine energy moving forward in this way as well. This could be that feeling of having that point coming towards you right now, having that energetic equivalent of energy that is coming towards you right now, having learned these lessons. But even now, this is requiring this dual pathwork for feminine, because this is feminine energy that feels to a certain degree that there had to be this process of letting something go, being able to walk away from something that you didn't necessarily aspire or desire to, but hoping and aspiring for the energetic equivalent to come through. So even now we see that for a lot of the energy and separation right now, recognizing that you can hold space, that you're allowed to be in a place where you can hold space for the past while also accepting what is happening in the present. It's heavy work, but it's productive, and it's leading to a lot of breakthroughs. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, third card in our 5-card spread for today is 9 of Wands in its reversal. This ability right now is coming through in terms of separation, and I have to stress this. This is really lovely, because this is an amplification, even in separation right now, of someone moving with the state of genuineness. And this is why we see right now that there could be a feeling for a lot of energy that's in separation right now, just like putting all the cards on the table, just being completely open. Because this is almost that moment that exhaustion point is coming through, and observing and understanding that there's this point of not necessarily wanting to put up a false facade, even if there are new connections here. Because what happens when we put up a false facade in the space of a new connection? We start to create that illusory space where we're not necessarily feeling like we're being our most authentic sense of self. So we see that for a lot of the energy and separation right now, that observation point of being able to be open and expressive in this way, this is kind of a gift of any of these spaces and places that you may have felt like you had to move away from that didn't provide this ability. Particularly now in separation, and this is why we see even now for the masculine and feminine in separation right now, I just want to say it feels very raw and it feels very vulnerable, because this is that point of recognizing and understanding of not wanting to feel like this is moving in that space of, again, just trying to come to that point of really being able to see one another and build connections from there. And in a way, this point of understanding right now is really like it's leading to a lot of heartfelt openness, even in separation. Because this is effectively the energy right now, giving that energetic equivalent to one another about affirming that the gift that they're trying to offer someone is effectively their own self. Is basically saying, this is who I am. This is what you can find from me. I'm moving with the state or space of authenticity. So that ability here we're seeing, even in like separation, is allowing for a lot of breakthroughs right now. And this is going to be amplified right now, again, on pathwork that's coming through, on healed energy that is able and ready to come into a forgiving space, is able to bring something forth, especially for masculine. If this was feminine that was asking for something, this could be that moment of, again, if this is pathwork that's helped you understand yourself better, this is now building that architecture of being able to say, I understand and recognize what you effectively wanted from me. If this is masculine energy that effectively came through in separation, is in separation because of coming through in authenticity, and this led to separation, this is masculine energy leading forth in this way going forward. This is the lesson that they received that is now amplifying how they're moving forward. And again, either healing the past situations from that level or degree of personal openness, or from the internal work of recognizing they needed to surrender something because that openness wasn't brought forth when it needed to be. Continuing to get clarity on these cards right now, the energy that's moving into the divine union frequency, this is that building forth right now. This is a lot of energy moving just straight into the heart of the divine union frequency, and it came from a point of conflict, because it may have been articulated on the fact of seeing a point of conflict and realizing that even the conflict point didn't feel like separation. It actually felt like it deepened the connection. While for masculine and feminine that are in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, this point of understanding, this nuance that we see that you're working through right now, this is that observation point in, again, moving towards each other with a lot of care and attention. Because again, what we're effectively seeing right now, and I have to stress this is the difference between the energy of working someone through a boundary that feels like it is necessary versus what feels like an unhealed abandonment wound. And what are we seeing that the energy right now in the divine union is doing? They're moving in a very gentle way towards those spaces to help someone identify them within the self. That level or degree of care is very important here. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here 7 of Pentacles in its reversal, because one of the things that we're effectively seeing right now, and I want to stress right now, this is feeling like a ramping up of processes. This is feeling like that need or that desire to want to move forward very quickly is creating a sense right now of recognizing that also, again, that sense of care and attention. One of the things that we're seeing here right now, again, for the divine union that may be feeling somewhat frustrating, is that level or degree of impatience that's coming into play, right? And what did I tell you? This is why we see now that the energetic equivalent of these energies working together on things is so positive and productive. The feminine energy effectively always wants to kind of move in that fashion of giving things a little bit more time, giving things a little bit more space to grow. Masculine wants to speed the process up to a certain degree. How are they helping each other right now in the divine union frequency? They are taking notes from each other. They're being mindful of each other. They are recognizing where that midpoint is that is helping build that sense of understanding what needs to be sped up or what needs to be waited upon. And it's going to feel, I have to stress right now, the cards only go so far. It's going to feel like a little bit of nuance right now for the energy in the divine union frequency. That's something that needs to be navigated individually in each of the divine union frequencies. Now, masculine and feminine, because this is like sweet spot. This is like sweet spot energy. You got to find that sweet spot energetically for yourselves. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency. This is the amplification and the ramping up of processes right now. I think it's very funny because I'm seeing the fact that there's a lot of energy right here that was like, we're going to take a really slow time on things. And no, you're not. It's like almost that joke of saying like we were going to do things very slowly, but then it just seemed like going slow seemed like the going slow was the hurdle. Like, why are we waiting is almost that sense. Like, why don't we just do these things right now? So you can see how this energetic feeling is allowing a lot of energy to come into the divine union a lot faster right now, because it's feeling the energy, like when you're in moving with energy that just feels like it's in alignment with you, it doesn't feel so much as like a forced process. It just almost feels like you're doing it naturally. Now, masculine and feminine that are in separation right now, this moment or opportunity is why we see that this is almost trying to call someone forth on a healing journey effectively, because what we're effectively identifying right now is almost that point of understanding, moving towards something from a place of just being completely open. And that does feel, to a certain degree, there's some energy right now that feels like a little bit of surrender energy here. It's that heaviness. We're feeling it all across the frequencies. And it just feels like this like deep sigh energy, because it's that moment of recognizing what is and is not in your hands to control. what you have that ability to control and what you don't have that ability to control. And even that moment, that point of personal understanding, and we're seeing here it is having a difference between the masculine and the feminine connection, it's going to have a different energetic imprint. For the feminine energy, this is that moment of effectively trying to say to masculine energy that's around you, especially if you're on a healing process, I am not abandoning you. I am not surrendering this connection. I am not trying to facilitate a place that keeps you energetically limited in terms of becoming your best version of self. When feminine energy creates an overly caretaking energy for masculine, when feminine has to take over all of the energetic equivalent of creating a safe space for masculine, it just creates a place that becomes an energetic, like it becomes a place where the masculine doesn't get to become their full embodiment of self, because it keeps masculine energy in a child frequency. So what we see here is this is almost feminine energy surrendering that and saying, I am aspiring that you find me when you're ready to grow with me. Making sure that the feminine is articulating the difference between building a connection with masculine energy that feels like the feminine needs to move in the capacity of embodying the qualities of a mother instead of being in the frequency of operating as partners. Masculine is working through the point of separation right now in understanding and recognizing that building into divine union frequency is not a convenience store. You can't just come in and out of it. It's not going to be there if you move in that way. It's not going to provide you what you are seeking. That in order to maintain a beautiful energetic frequency with someone, you have to put that care and attention in. You have to put in what you want to get out. It is something that requires effort. You have to be able to be careful with it. You have to continue to support it. You have to grow it like a garden. That is why we see that a lot of the masculine energy in this modality right now is feeling like that breakthrough energy, because even recognizing it is changing your own understanding of partnership and wanting to come into a space of becoming your highest self. For a lot of the masculine energy, it may have led you into separation at this point. But we see that for both of these energies, if you came into separation over these circumstances, over feminine looking towards masculine saying, I am releasing you because I want you to become your best version of self, and I want to be able to do that too. And if this is masculine that's come into separation and said, I wanted to come into best version of self by being open with you, by sharing in my emotional life with you, by not building a world of illusion with you, we see that these energies are harmonically calling towards each other even in separation, which is why they are moving forth right now with a lot of openness. So we see here that there's a lot of energy of restoration coming right now in relation to masculine energy that may have reached this point of physical understanding of the emotional self right now, or feminine energy being able to release what isn't serving them and effectively amplifying and trying to say to the masculine, I am helping you progress on your own energetic journey. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, your ability to facilitate this for one another is why we see that there's so much energy right now that may be moving much deeper into the heart of the divine union frequency. While for the energy right now that is in the divine union frequency, this is more going to feel like the frustration or nuance, because this isn't necessarily something that you need to learn. You're just feeling the energetic equivalent of a lot of energy that's coming into it right now. So it may be feeling like a lot of energetic outpouring right now for the energy in the divine union frequency, and you might not know what to do with it. I'm just going to be honest. The energy in the divine union frequency, you may be feeling like this outpouring energetically right now, and you might not necessarily know what to do with it. It's really just facilitating right now, coming into a space or state of nuancing and maybe wanting to, again, speed up any kind of like more practical details right now. Because what is the energy in the divine union frequency doing with it? They're just trying to put it in practical spaces or places. So this is a lot of busybody energy for the energy in the divine union frequency. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today. Oh my gosh, as all the cards fall on the floor, we've got here our Wheel of Fortune. So this is beautiful, because this is the type of energy that allows things to move forward effectively right now. This is that breakthrough energy that we effectively want to see right now. Masculine and feminine energy. And I have to say, that ability is almost that moment of recognizing what is and is not in your control, but also putting one's own faith on your own path work. This is effectively assessing and understanding that commitment of effort is the gift that you're giving back right now. So we see that that level or desire to move authentically right now is amplifying for a lot of the energy and separation. Even now, this is that sense of saying, as long as I keep moving in a space or place that I know I am doing what I know is in my heart, the way that I want to move, I know that what is waiting for me will effectively find me. And it does feel, to a certain degree, there is a point of frustration that we're effectively identifying that may feel a little bit like putting one foot in front of the other right now, having to take a little bit of a wait and see approach. But that ability right now to build that sense of faith in your own path, to put your faith on that, even now, that's how we see that amplification point that's happening in terms of recognizing. And I have to say, it's just this message that's coming through over and over again. The sense of saying to oneself, I can only control what I can control, and I need to release what I feel like is not in my control, is really building that amplification point. And that's almost coming through, again, energetically for the energy and separation, and saying, I don't want to control another person. I don't want to control another person's path. It's not my job to try to control someone to stay on the path with me. It is my job to accept and understand and observe when someone wants to move on that path with me, or if someone is showing in some way, shape, or form that these are the places where our paths are effectively moving forward. So even now, that act of surrender is allowing for a lot of peace to come into some situations and circumstances. And even now we're seeing that this is either a moment, especially if this is masculine energy and separation, that is, I told you, a lot of the masculine energy and separation right now was doing a lot of path work in terms of what to do with this energetic understanding of self that's coming into play. And that's either amplifying right now in masculine energy in separation, wanting to take that deeper understanding of self and bring it forward to situations and circumstances wherein they feel that they could have utilized this in some way, shape, or form. That understanding of self kind of being an eye-opener on something from the past that they now realize that they would have approached in a different way. Or it is that amplification, holding again that sense of grief and accountability. Or this is the moment of masculine feeling the full weight and recognizing that that path work that led them to this point is something that they need to carry forward with them now. And it's that heaviness in understanding what it took to come into that sense of understanding of the self has some path work of correction here. For feminine energy, we see in separation the same thing is effectively happening here. Because this is that moment of effectively recognizing and saying, you know, it's not the feminine feeling like they want to drag masculine with them on this journey. This is feminine energy that's almost saying to themselves, they don't want to be in that moment of feeling like they need to create a provider space for masculine. This is why a lot of the feminine energy almost just stepped back. And feminine was doing that almost from the equivalent of wanting to heal the masculine and saying, I want you to embody the role of your best sense of self. I don't want you to feel like I am creating an environment vis-a-vis that you become codependent on me. This should not be a situation where I have to become your nurturer or your caretaker, because that is me facilitating your own vulnerability or your own unhealed inner child. So what we're effectively seeing here is energetically right now, this is both energies in separation, moving forward and potentially finding each other along the way. Now, masculine and feminine in the divine union frequency, this is that moment of wanting to rush forward right now, because it's that moment of saying, why am I waiting? I can already see the inevitability of something. There's a lot of energy that almost like approached or went into situations saying, we're going to take it slow. We're going to slow things down. And now this is almost the energetic equivalent of someone saying, no, we're not. Why are we, like, our own ability to slow things down feels like it is the obstruction point here, because what's there is like, once it's there, it's not like something that you have to create or fabricate. It's just something that you're feeling. Everything else becomes an obstruction point. Masculine and feminine in the divine union frequency, this is why I say that this is the hardest energy to navigate right now, because it's not deepening. It's not deepening your connection. The connection is already there. It's feeling more as the sake of frustration in terms of wanting to moving in practical spaces, wanting to do things that feel like they will solidify what is already existing energetically there is the frustration point, which is why we see so much of that energy trying to get to work right now, because this is now like trying to take the energetic signature and focus it in tangibles even more firmly. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Page of Pentacles in combination with our Six of Wands in its reversal. I got to pick up all these cards that fell. Bear with me a minute. Okay, hold on. All right, and we're back. Where were we? Hold on. I need to get these cards back in order. I dropped the Wheel of Fortune card and then all the cards fell, because why wouldn't that happen? All right, where were we? Next card clarification between Page of Pentacles and our Six of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Eight of Swords. So even now, I got to stress, it's not, this energy is going to feel more frustrating in the energy of the divine union. Okay? This is breakthrough energy that's coming through. Breakthrough energy experienced from the divine union perspective feels more frustrating because you don't necessarily know what to do with it. Masculine and feminine energy right now in the divine union frequency is feeling the difference between what they feel like, again, putting a lot of care, effort, and energy right now in tangible circumstances and situations. There's maybe even something that's effectively happening right now that feels like this energetic equivalent that's requiring adjustment. It's almost giving that state or space right now. And I have to stress right now for the energy in the divine union frequency. This is that type of energy that feels like, okay, the best way to articulate this, okay, because I know I can already see how some of this energy feels weird, is understanding the difference between what was not considered a big deal when you first moved into divine union is now becoming a bit of something that is becoming an intolerability point. Okay? It's literally giving me that energy of like Princess and the Pea to a certain extent here now for the energy in the divine union frequency. It's trying to navigate something that you thought wasn't going to feel that like so much of a frustration point. But I have to say here that even now, this shows how fully healed a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency is. If you are struggling right now over particulars on things, I don't want you to let you get yourself caught up in separation like that. I want you to observe how deep in the heart of the divine union frequency you are right now. If you find yourself getting all twitched out right now over something that is really like this is sweating the small stuff type of energy. But again, what happens energetically when you're in the divine union right now, that sense of like frustration is one that like feels like it's creating a level of nuance and discernment energetically in the divine union frequency. So don't let that bring you back into separation right now. If you're experiencing it, remember that that is a moment of coming into identifying what is going to make things easier, because it does feel right now, I told you, there's some of that energetic. Even now, there's some like energetic breakthrough energy that's happening in the divine union that is amplifying some point of adjustment with new plans and new opportunities, right? There's almost something here that's coming through. It's like something that's being seen in a cyclical nature and saying, is there something that we can do to make something easier? So this is going to be amplifying inefficiencies. The energy in the divine union, coming into the divine union, this is great. It's not going to feel so frustrating for the energy coming into the divine union frequency because you can do something with it. You're putting forward a lot of new commitment offers, a lot of new changes, a lot of commitment offers coming through right now because, again, the same message coming through, something that didn't feel like it was going to be a big deal is becoming a big deal. It's becoming something that feels more like a pesky nuisance energy as it relates to obstruction points that are preventing the energy of coming into divine union. So we see here that this is that energetic equivalent, if you will, of coming forward with opportunities or offers to try to navigate something that feels like it's becoming an unnecessary burden. Masculine and feminine in separation right now, this is that energetic equivalent that is amplifying the sense of moving away from what feels like it is not serving you towards what is, because this is giving that energetic equivalent right now for the energy in separation, amplifying that the need and the desire to be with someone here is not the issue. It has more to do with what the shape of that partnership looks like. The energy right now coming that is in separation, this could even be articulating upon new energetic connections, talking about an observation point in how a connection was moving in the past that did not feel like it was serving the self. So even now we see that that sense of accountability and understanding is what is facilitating a lot of this breakthrough energy in separation. And it is coming through in one of two different ways. This is either masculine energy, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Being able to come towards feminine and say, I see and I observe how the way that we were moving in partnership did not feel like we were necessarily moving in partnership together so much as it felt like I was trying to contain you. I was trying to hold you forth. And that is not something that I want to do going forward. This could also be masculine energy articulating, if on the healing path, to new feminine energy, saying there was an energy that I was moving away from that wanted me to build this space of illusion around them. They wanted to be in that space that I wasn't necessarily open with them, and me breaking through that illusion, trying to create that space where we could be open and equal with one another, led to me being in separation. So we see that a lot of that masculine energy right now is coming through with a lot of healing via the personal accountability of the past self. Feminine energy, this is either feminine energy right now receiving a lot of masculine energy that is observing and understanding this, that is coming through with these breakthroughs, that is able, not just coming back the way that they aspired from the past, but amplifying and saying, I understand that the way I was trying to look at partnership was one that felt like it was not necessarily a partnership so much as it was one that was limiting you, that was preventing you from being in partnership with me. So this is that energetic equivalent of masculine energy that recognizes their own need to come into a point of personal understanding for breakthrough. This is masculine energy saying, I don't want you to feel like I am a child that you need to take care of. I understand that I need to grow in this capacity. I'm back here because now I understand what I need to bring forth. Or this is feminine energy articulating to healed masculine energy, I am moving away from a circumstance or situation that I did not desire to move away from, but I could not be my best version of self because the whole amplification of the relationship was one where I just had to serve the needs of another. And that energy did not realize that that is not what I am built for. I'm not just built to serve the needs of another. There's a point of being able to recognize that I need to be working in partnership with someone. So we see here energetically, even now, this is that point that the energies are able to find one another, because this is that point of recognizing that that point of, again, feminine surrendering what isn't for them for the sake of allowing the masculine to grow, masculine being able to move in a space or place of not operating in a place of illusion with the feminine, not wanting to build an illusory space for the feminine, is now leading to divine unions coming forth. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Wands in its reversal and our Nine of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. It's heavy energy. It's heavy energy. It's heavy energy because this observation point right now, again, it feels very much like you are moving with a lot of speed right now because there's that desire to be able to come into a point of modification. And what's beautiful about this, and I need to stress, I need to stress that energetically right now, there may be some feelings of anxiety that are coming to the surface here, right? I want to say even now, a lot of the energy in the divine union, that I have to say, you see how that energy, that energetic signature is now calling forth a lot of energy to come into divine union. It is going to express itself right now energetically for the energy in the divine union frequency as that I want to say the unnameable source of anxiety, right? That unnameable source of frustration. But that is the energetic signature that you're feeling that is calling forth a lot of energy right now to be able to move into better union. So I want you to recognize that even being able to see that energetic frequency within you and not letting yourself feel triggered by it is incredibly important right now. Because it's that moment that, again, you're not necessarily moving away from that. You're doing what you necessarily need to do to navigate it. Because what do we want to do right now in these circumstances and situations? For the energy in the divine union frequency, that, remember when I said taking the mountain and making it feel like a molehill? That's what we're feeling right now in the divine union frequency. This is almost a point that's like that personal remembering to a certain extent that needs to happen around some things and saying, this isn't a big deal. And this is where we see right now, even now, that elasticity between masculine and feminine is helping calibrate something. Because this could be, again, one energy of or the other trying to bring someone down a notch, trying to help someone through their own anxiety or their own panic. Because this is that point that we're effectively identifying is that sense. I remember how I told you the identification point that's happening right now for the frequencies in the divine union in finding a point of personal expansion right now. This is that point of recognizing the difference between comfort levels. So this could be feeling right now a lot of energy right now going through, navigating a lot of those deep fears, a lot of those deep anxieties potentially coming to the surface. But why are they coming to the surface now? Because a good energetic frequency, an energetic frequency in the divine union, being able to alleviate each other's fears is the gift of the divine union. It doesn't create a state of having to push them down to a certain extent. It is allowing that space of energetic supporting each other, even in that sense of being able to recognize the fact that you're energetically working with energy that isn't going to increase or exacerbate those fears. It's going to stand strong in the face of it. So even now, that point, it's hard work. We're seeing that. It's energetic hard work right now. But we also see that recognizing that, feeling that burden is the gift of the divine union. Because again, you're not running away from that energy. You're not running in the opposite direction. You are embracing it even when it can feel like it is triggering. It is allowing oneself to just basically move. I want to describe this as when you're doing yoga and you feel that point of tension. You don't pull out of it. You sink deeper into it. You allow yourself to just experience that, because recognizing that being able to involve and yourself in that energetic signature is what the divine union effectively allows you to, because you're sharing that burden. You're sharing that anxiety. You're not hiding it from the other. You are holding space for it within. Masculine and feminine that are coming into divine union. This ability is the amplification right now, and why we see this is going to feel more productive if you're coming into divine union right now, because this is that moment where that sensation of wanting to rush forward is coming from a point of anxiety, right? There's something here, and I need to stress, what did I tell you about the egg test? Masculine wants to rush forward with things. Feminine wants to move more slowly. That ability right now is expressing itself. And for a lot of the masculine energy, this could be feeling like a lot of anxiety coming into play, which is why we see that there's a lot of energy about wanting to ground that out into something that you can practically do. Because for the masculine energy, that that ability of seeing and recognizing, feeling those fears. What does masculine want to do with it? They want to put a hammer to the nail. They want to address it. So this is coming through right now in masculine, doing a lot of work right now to navigate some of those internal feelings. Feminine, you may be seeing this on the part of a masculine right now, but what's beautiful about the energy right now in the divine union frequency is that sense of anxiety is almost just wanting to rush ahead and navigate any of the hurdles that are they're preventing the union from being more together, for fear that something might come in the way and disrupt that flow state. So we see here that even now energetically, that sensation, what's important about it, and I need to stress this, don't let yourself get triggered by it. There may be some energy right now that lets their fears overwhelm them and run them in the opposite direction instead of moving closer to one another at that time. So even now we're effectively identifying and recognizing that there's something really important about this moment that is expressing the anxieties, but allowing yourself to overcome your own anxieties and fears to a certain degree is almost that moment that we see that is amplifying the energetic equivalent, that is allowing themselves to come into deeper partnership, because these are those moments. And this is why we see, I told you, situations do not change people, they reveal people. There's something right now I'm telling you that was being expressed in someone saying, I saw who they truly were at that moment. And that amplification is now driving me forward, if you will. And I need to express this. This isn't energy that's saying, look what I did for you. Look at all, no, it's almost that moment of seeing that there was something that effectively happened in those moments. Someone observing the way someone moved, that is amplifying to someone their own security in moving towards someone energetically right now. Because this is that gift of observation in terms of saying, it's almost those moments of saying, it was at that moment that I knew that this was the person. It was at that moment because it was the energetic equivalent of seeing that unconscious movement of someone during a moment of crisis that amplified to a certain degree what one feels, that sense of trust. This is the trust fall, if you will. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. In separation right now, this is why we see that for a lot of the energy in separation, there could be a moment that does feel like it's the strengthening. It's like something this is the surrender moment. Because this is that moment that, again, energetically, we see that a lot of the energy right now is feeling or experiencing a point right now that it feels like there's very little that one can do about it at this moment. But we see even now that ability to understand this is what is amplifying what feels like it is creating a space or place of new energetic partnerships coming through a point of observation. Or they're coming through right now as a point of new energetic experiences and new connections that are occurring right now in relation to what feels like you're in the heart of a crisis moment. This is why we even see right now there's a lot of energy that's potentially meeting each other right now and saying this is probably the last time, the last place, this is the worst possible place that you could be finding me at this time, because it's almost that energetic equivalent of someone amplifying and saying, I'm coming out of something that was very difficult. We see this here. So for masculine energy right now, this is going to be articulating, again, masculine energy, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Masculine energy wanting to rush forward and add this balm on something here. This may be feeling like a lot of masculine energy coming to the energetic equivalent. If there's this point of understanding that you've reached, that you may want to bring this balm to something and say, I understand now. I understand. I can see how the way I was moving towards you was creating that difficulty between us. I can understand how not being open with you, not emotionally supporting you, creating or looking at you more as like a shelter in the storm, as opposed to a place I should have been building with. This ability and recognizing this right now, I am able to take accountability. I see that my perception on what I was supposed to be receiving from you and what I was supposed to be giving you was misaligned. So this is either masculine energy coming into that point. And this is why it could feel like a bit of a tower moment for some of the masculine energy experiencing this, which is why I don't want you to fall into a point of crisis of observing this, because a crisis point of the self that is observed allows for a point of activation. So we see even now that this is masculine energy that is either moving towards something here for the sake of fixing, for the sake of restoring, with an observation point, not trying to assume or pretend something didn't happen, but with that full sense of accountability, having discovered one's own self and saying, I understand now that I didn't necessarily move away from a crisis point, that I may have effectively created a crisis point and then fled from it. Feminine energy. And so this is either masculine energy going back to the heart of those circumstances and situations to put that balm there, or this is masculine energy going into new energetic connections with feminine, holding the weight of responsibility and accountability for the actions that have potentially led them to be in separation. Feminine energy, you may also be experiencing this right now. And this is that moment that we are also observing for feminine. This is feminine taking accountability to a certain extent, potentially saying, I understand if I was in a space or state where I was facilitating, where I was creating an energetic place where I found masculine not meeting my needs, and I just kept building a shelter space around them. This is feminine also taking a point of accountability here and saying, I recognize my own part in potentially not necessarily recognizing an energy that wasn't ready to build with me, but just effectively almost embodying the role and recognizing that space of having to build that like energetic shelter around an energy. I am also taking accountability for that moment. And this is a moment that feminine is also holding a lot of space and separation, but being very open about it. So again, energetic equivalents right now that are coming through the point of personal growth of self and taking that accountability of action. And it's heavy energy for both of them, for all of the energetic frequencies in separation, because it is the point of observation of personal path work that is leading to new possibilities, leading to deepening responsibility, masculine and feminine energy. Now, again, masculine and feminine that are moving into the divine union frequency, this is that expression of validating, seeing someone in a point of crisis and feeling like, yeah, that's the energy I want to move towards. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 9 of Swords in its reversal in combination with our 7 of Pentacles in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our 2 of Swords. Masculine and feminine energy right now in the divine union frequency. This modality, this circumstance or situation we see here in separation right now, it feels very difficult. We're seeing that the energy in separation right now, what's beautiful about it is this coming to this point of clarity. You know, it's almost this moment that we see, and it feels very much we're seeing here. Like it's just this observation point, if you will. And it's recalling and bringing forth right now for a lot of the energy in separation, taking a bit more of a cautious wait and see approach, right? Because we see here that this is energetic equivalence right now in divine union. There may be a point of receptivity that is occurring here. Either, again, energetically, coming forward in this space and place right now, having that point of accountability is one thing, right? Taking accountability is all good. Words that match actions is that point that's going to help really articulate here upon what feels like it is moving forward in a positive way versus something that may be the difference between being able to articulate on something versus the difference between actually being able to show some level or degree of change. So we're recognizing and identifying right now that for a lot of the energy in separation, there's a bit of caution energy here, but that's okay. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now are taking that same level or degree of caution. Look how aligned these energies are. Even now, energetically, if in separation, if you're meeting an energy that's moving forward in this way, that openness is like the gift. And right now we can see that it's almost like leading to this sense of feeling like you've got that like tuning fork out and feeling like there's something here that feels like very much in alignment. And we see that it's requiring a lot of there's a lot of listening that we're seeing that's happening here, because again, this is the observation point of trust that is being built in relationality to the observation of something that needs to change, but wanting to see the committed effort going forward that will really articulate on energy that is able to put their actions with where their words are. So again, for masculine and feminine energy in this modality in separation right now, you may be feeling like you've been having some breakthroughs, maybe even some breakthroughs over the weekend. For feminine, this is either going to be pathwork of masculine coming back towards you and able to articulate what needs to change. Not just coming back and asking for forgiveness, but articulating what they need to bring forth to allow for something to come into a state of better alignment. Or this is coming through right now in feminine, making new connections with masculine energy that seems like they are able to articulate on exactly what the feminine was effectively seeking, because this is masculine energy in separation right now that was coming into a place of separation, not because of a commitment of effort to pathwork, but because they were trying to move forward from a state of openness with some feminine energy that wasn't necessarily ready to receive their honesty or their truth. A lot of energy right now, taking that beautiful campfire energy, something that is slow and growing, and allowing that sense of care as you go forward from this point. Now, masculine and feminine that are coming into divine union right now, this is the opposite energetic signature, because this is that moment that feels like you're trying to rush forward on the cycle because you feel like that balance is on you. It's feeling that sensation that there is a point of balance that has been reached. So what we're identifying here is for the energy that's coming into divine union, this is just trying to clear out anything that feels like it's just an unnecessary inconvenience at this time. Because this is almost that sense of feeling like what exists between you is sacrosanct. Everything else is just kind of a block in the road. Masculine and feminine in the divine union frequency, this is that pesky energy as well, because this is more, again, I have to tell you, for the energy of the divine union, this is more getting this is just getting frustrated. And it's going to be more frustrations right now in the tangible space. Again, some of that alignment right now that is effectively happening is coming through in trying to figure out what is going to feel comfortable for both energies right now. Because we see here that there's something very heavy that's happening right now for the energy and divine union in understanding that you're both moving in the same direction. But it's what that goal looks like, how you want to do it. That is taking a little bit of that nuance. And even now it's requiring a bit level or degree of patience. Now, continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Seven of Pentacles in its reversal and our Wheel of Fortune. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Nine of Wands, masculine and feminine energy right now in the divine union frequency. This point of recognition, this point of understanding, there's a lot of heaviness that comes to play here. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of anxiety. Look at this energy right now. This is heavy energy that we are dealing with. The important thing about this right now is not letting those anxieties, not letting those frustrations override you. Let this feel more like that process of purging yourself of those anxieties, of those doubts, of those fears. Because even now we're effectively seeing that there's something about this right now. And I have to say, it's one of those moments that if you're in the divine union frequency, it's going to feel harder. It's going to feel heavier. Because this is not necessarily a place that you can really put your finger on it. Why? Because this is the same energetic signature that's bringing a lot of energy into the divine union frequency right now. This is ramping things up. To a certain extent, it's almost creating a space of unnameable fears or anxieties to rise up to the surface for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency. Being able to have that moment of holding space. There's something about being able to just hold space right now for each other's anxieties and frustrations and fears. That in itself is what we see is allowing for a lot of this breakthrough energy, even in the divine union frequency, because this is that moment that you're not letting yourself get triggered by those anxieties and fears. You are allowing it to build a point of connective tissue. Because what are we even seeing here? What did I tell you was coming through? The things that are within your power to control and the things that aren't. So I'm telling you right now, there may be that feeling that may be arising right now in terms of experiencing some sensations wherein you're having some of those, unnameable fears, those anxieties, those things, those uncertainties, right? They're here. But again, embracing those, coming into a sense of recognizing that those are not in your power to control, holding on and holding space through them right now is going to be really, really important, especially for the energy in the divine union frequency, because that is that amplification of love. That is that amplification of love. What is the amplification of love? Holding space for each other, even through our anxieties and our doubts and fears. Masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into the divine union frequency, that ability, that understanding, that sensation right now of all those doubts and fears creeping up. Well, congratulations. That's actually amplifying and ramping up a lot of energy moving into divine union in a faster way right now, because this is that feeling of looking at something and feeling that inevitability of a connection here that is amplifying the need or the desire to want to speed up a process, right? This is like why looking at something and saying, I want this to last. What do I need to do to make this last in a bigger way? So even now, making sure that there's some kind of intentionality that's coming into play here is really important, because it's the difference of, again, not wanting to move, from a fear-based perspective, but utilizing that sense of intentionality and purpose, grounding that fear into pathwork that feels like it is productive, instead of just moving yourself around with a state or space of anxiety, grounding through the sensation. Masculine and feminine energy and separation, this is really, really heavy and hard, because there's a moment right now for a lot of the energy and separation that you're feeling something is progressing forward. This is that grief, this is that process of releasing what isn't serving you right now. And I have to tell you, for the feminine energy right now, it's really energetically heavy. If you're in your feminine, bearing in mind that this, and masculine right now, for both of the energies, if you're in separation right now and you're experiencing this, I want you to recognize that you can be in fact, this is the only way you can do it. There's going to be a modality wherein you are hurting and you are healing. You can be hurting and you can be healing. You do not need to choose one versus the other. In fact, if you're doing the work right, you are going to be hurting tremendously while you are healing. You can be moving forward on your path in the way that you know is aligned to you, while also holding space for the grief that may have caused or you had to experience along the way. For feminine, a lot of this has to do with potentially surrendering situations and circumstances wherein you may feel that you did everything that you could to try to facilitate change in someone. But there's the key, isn't it? There's the key for feminine. The observation point that you can do everything you can to facilitate change in another, but ultimately it is someone else's determination point as it relates to what direction that they want to go into right now. That ability of feminine coming into that point of acceptance, it's heavy. It's a heavy burden. But that's also the feminine moving on a pathway of healing, because this is feminine energy saying, I am surrendering what is not in alignment with me. I can recognize that I can feel desire for something that does not build that same point of recognizing what they need to give back to me. Feminine coming into that point of observation right now, that release process, it is heavy, because for a lot of feminine energy right now, this could be feeling the full weight of feeling like you put a lot of work and effort and energy in something and you feel like you have to effectively abandon it at this time because you don't necessarily feel like it's yielding what you effectively aspired and desired to. So even now we see that for a lot of the feminine energy, there is this like sensation of trusting in your own intuition and your own path work at this time. Because this is, again, this is not feminine energy that is effectively wanting to move away from something. This is feminine energy feeling that sensation of hoping that something would transform into something that it never gave any indication to being. And I have to stress right now that there's something really important about the feminine energy observing this right now. The difference between moving towards someone and seeing those aspects that you aspire for in a feminine versus feminine's own ability and saying, I can adjust that energy. I can change that. That was the pathwork for feminine that needed to be corrected. And for feminine recognizing that, that is a feminine that is on their healing journey, because that's feminine saying, my healing karma was recognizing that it wasn't my responsibility to try to align someone into a space or place that they ought not be or they don't desire to be. I just need to release it. I just need to release it if I find it and it's giving indications that it doesn't want to necessarily move in that pathwork with me. Masculine energy coming into a point of healing is recognizing and identifying spaces or places where you may have looked towards feminine more as a place of creating positivity, something that you could come and go with, that sensation that feminine is just a place or space of enjoyment and should just create a fostering environment, because masculine energy, that's you healing your inner abandoned child wound and recognizing that the role of the feminine in your life should not be one that facilitates you acting like a child. Not being in a space or place where you're effectively just continuing not to move into your own maturation process because you've created a framework wherein the feminine is just becoming a substitute for your mother. So we see here for a lot of the masculine energy, that observation point, looking back onto spaces and places where you may have recognized the feminine was relinquishing you because when they said that they wanted you to grow with them, they were trying to say, I want you to be an adult in the room with me, as opposed to another child energy. So we see even now for a lot of the masculine energy, recognizing this pathwork as well, is holding the weight on what may have led you here, but effectively helping you proceed forward right now in a deeper understanding of self. So energetically right now, we are seeing that both energies in separation, holding a lot of accountability in terms of what they need to relinquish, but also allowing that to be the supportive framework with helping them grow moving forward, allowing something to progress in a positive fashion. Continuing, masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This is you seeing that in the other. And it may have been amplified, and again, seeing how someone moved in a point of difficulty or hurdle. That point of amplification right now, that recognition point effectively, is what's amplifying right now. I have to say that crisis point, whatever that conflict energy was that we saw last week, is literally fortifying a lot of the partnerships that are moving deeper into the heart of the divine union frequency now. Because this is that moment of saying I saw them at their worst and it was nothing. I saw them at their worst. I saw what they did at a moment where they thought that things were going terribly. And even in that moment, it just fortified my directionality of wanting to move with someone. And that's why we see if that was a conflict energy here, this is one of those moments of going like, whoa, no way. That was like, that gave me full clarity. That gave me full focus. And even now we see that a lot of energy is moving into the heart of the divine union frequency that was amplified. Now you can say you're welcome, because that conflict energy, what did it do? It brought you further into the connection with the other energy. So, you see, you got to wait. Sometimes you just got to wait a little bit. You got to be patient. You got to trust the process. There's some energy here that's almost like having to trust the process. While again, for the masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency, this is just feeling that amplification point in wanting to rush forward and recognizing that you need to slow things down right now. This is like cooling your own jets to a certain degree for both masculine and feminine energy, because this is that moment of finding a modification point that's requiring a little bit of nuance. It's finding that comfort level for what feels like it's best for the whole group, for the energetic frequency itself, for the divine union. So being able to identify this right now is like one of those moments that feels like a personal moment of frustration that you're going through. But what are you doing? You're keeping your eye on the horizon point. You're thinking in the long term. So even now we see that there's that energetic equivalent right now of divine union that's like finding that like middle point, that sweet spot. And it's going to build like a sense of some frustration that's coming through here. But that frustration is leading to productivity. Don't get triggered. Don't get triggered. Just don't do it. It's not necessary. It doesn't help. Continuing, get clarification on these cards right now between our Eight of Swords in combination with our Tower card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with Knight of Swords. Again, what are we seeing? I got to stress, I know this energy is harder right now for the masculine. I can see it, right? This is feeling like a lot of like masculine energy, just like surrendering into the frustration. It's feeling a lot of the masculine energy coming into this point of like feeling like they need to kind of like surrender into the frustration, especially for the energy right now in the divine union. Okay. So for the energy in the divine union frequency, this is one of those moments that masculine, sometimes you got to move slowly, right? Sometimes you got to move slowly. Sometimes being in divine union means you got to move at a pace that isn't especially as fast as you would aspire or desire to. And we see even now that there's a lot of the masculine energy navigating this right now that feels like it is challenging, right? What's happening for a lot of the masculine energy that needs to slow things down right now? Don't let yourself get all in your own head about it. Don't let yourself get frustrated. Don't let yourself, but I need to stress here, what is the masculine energy doing right now that is on the path work? If this is something that you're experiencing right now, masculine, is this something that happens when you slow things down? What starts to come up? What are those thoughts? What are those things that come up? This is how the masculine is learning about the self right now, because what's happening in these moments, this is masculine that is moving at a slower pace for the feminine. And in the wake of moving slower for the feminine, all the sediments rising to the surface, all these anxieties, all these fears are cropping up. And what is masculine doing? Masculine is observing what happens when you don't act on them. What happens when you just observe them? This is masculine starting to see those processes within the self that rise up in those moments, but not necessarily taking action in them, just allowing themselves to come into a point of acceptance with them. Seeing those little, letting those things rise to the surface by just letting the water go still, right? That's a slowing down that allows for an observation on some of that feelings of anxiety. That's where the unpacking starts to happen. So we see that for a lot of the masculine energy, having to move in a place of stillness, not moving as fast as you want right now. I had a lot of time to think. Okay, it's giving me a lot of that energy right now for the masculine energy, right? Even in divine union, going, I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do. I was feeling frustrated, but I had a lot of time to think and I noticed something, right? That's that unpacking, if you will. Masculine and feminine energy. And that observation point, even now for a lot of the masculine energy, I got to say, this is like, even for the masculine energy in divine union, this is a lot of personal breakthroughs that are happening. Be kind with yourself in these moments, masculine. Masculine energy and feminine energy in divine union right now. This is some kind of amplification that's effectively happening here in relation to your own anxieties, feminine. Because this is that moment that we see for the feminine energy in divine union. I need to stress this. This is harder for the feminine energy to unpack to a certain extent, because this is that moment that we're effectively identifying where feminine energy is feeling a lot of these anxieties coming to the surface. But these aren't things that this is almost a point for the feminine where like feminine is not trying to bring these burdens or these anxieties or fears to the masculine right now, because this is feminine energy that is effectively moving in a way or space right now of, again, amplifying what feels like that moderation point. So even now, for the feminine energy, we see that there's something here that, again, you are also unpacking these. And the problem that we're seeing right now energetically, I need to stress this, is for masculine and feminine in the divine union frequency. The thing that is bothering you is the thing that you can't control. Because what is happening right now for the energy right now that is in the divine union frequency, you're moving in a state or space of recognizing that you are in a supportive environment where anything that feels like is a need will be met by the other. So what starts popping up in the midst of that? The things that you can't control start to feel like they're overwhelming to you to a certain degree. So we even see now having to navigate that feeling, and it's going to be harder for the energy in the divine union frequency because it's going to feel like, again, like you're running around with a hammer and you're like, what am I even doing with this thing? There's not even a nail to put it on. It's creating a sense of like sweating the small stuff, if you will. Masculine and feminine, this is delightful energy if you're coming into divine union because this is you effectively rushing forward to a certain extent. But again, finding that point that feels like it is accommodating for you is the balancing act. Because what we're seeing here right now, even now, this is fortifying some of the energy that's coming into divine union. Because again, masculine, you may be feeling a need right now to want to rush things forward. Feminine's trying to potentially slow things down. This is like the egg test, right? What do you do when you got something you care about? Do you rush with it or do you go really slowly, right? This is masculine potentially feeling even in the divine union frequency that this is a feminine that wants to take more of a slow approach. And even that to a certain extent, we want to avoid this being like a slingshot. This is almost like this moment that masculine may be feeling a lot of these anxieties coming to play, right? And even now we think it's going to be really, really important to articulate and identify what feels like it is something that can be fixed versus those unnameable fears, overwhelming circumstances and situations, right? Because what are we potentially seeing could happen here? Geez Louise, I swear if this is happening for some of you, I'm going to come and I'm going to bonk you on the head, okay? Okay, if there's a moment right now where masculine wants to rush forward because they care about something and feminine wants to slow down because they care about something, and if you look at the other and you're taking that as a point of seeing and saying, oh, they must not want this, well, guess what? You're going to completely mess this up. Because this is that point where it's like two people struggling, you're going to drop whatever you're trying to build, okay? Mindful, focus on the horizon point. Make sure that that way of getting somewhere in different ways doesn't amplify the negative. It just brings up the fact that you have two different ways of moving when you're both driving towards the same thing. That ability right now is being amplified even for the energy coming into the divine union frequency. Don't let those pesky fears and doubts effectively drive you away from the intentionality that someone else is presenting to you very clearly. Masculine and feminine moving in separation right now. This is that heavy energetic frequency that we are seeing right now. And for a lot of the feminine energy right now, this is why we see that this feels to a certain degree almost like a surrender process. Because this is that moment of feminine. I told you, a lot of the feminine energy just stepping back from circumstances and situations to see if the masculine will put in the smallest energetic effort to try to sustain something here. And this is the feminine energy that effectively feels to a certain degree that in a way, the distance or the time that has elapsed around circumstances or situations now almost feels like an inviolability point. Because this is almost a feminine that feels to a certain degree that masculine's own inability to come towards feminine when feminine was expressing a need from masculine was in itself its own crisis point. And this is why we see that a lot of the feminine energy right now is working through an active release with some of the masculine energy in this modality, because feminine's almost feeling like it's not the lack of love that they may feel from a masculine here. It's almost the looking towards a masculine and feeling like that masculine energy. The reason the feminine energy is in separation is at a point of crisis. Feminine was experiencing a point of crisis, called out to the masculine, and masculine ran in the other direction. And for the feminine energy that experiences this, a feminine energy that feels like they drove themselves to a point of crisis, trying to protect masculine energy. And for the masculine energy to move away from them at the moment that the feminine expresses their own hour of need, that is the feminine energy going through that release process and potentially even articulating it going forward energetically here. Masculine energy right now, if in separation, this is that breakthrough point of potentially understanding the feminine perspective on things. This is potentially coming to a point of deepening understanding of self about how, especially if you are in relationship models wherein, again, you are trying to create a space that you weren't growing with feminine. You were just trying to encapsulate feminine in an experience, potentially even that wall of illusion that you yourself were creating around past circumstances or experiences. You're taking accountability on what may have happened in the past that created that crisis point, that observation that, again, if the feminine energy came into a point of crisis around you, if the feminine energy wasn't in a point of crisis prior to you encountering them, and then they came into a point of crisis when you were with them, that could be indicative of the fact that you may have been some partly responsible for the critical energy or the crisis point that the feminine found themselves in. And the observation point that you found the feminine, that a feminine reached a point of crisis while with you and you moved away, you fled in the other direction, that could be that observation point potentially coming in. That is that sense of accountability. That is the sense of seeing the past self, if you will, and saying, I get it now. I understand. And this is that moment that we see now, that masculine energy coming into that point of understanding. It's a heavy weight to bear. Because this is that moment that is almost amplifying a masculine energy that potentially has moved or grown enough that they now recognize and understand what they should have brought forth to the feminine. But also understanding what cannot be repaired or what cannot be fixed to a certain extent. We see even now there's something really important here. And I think that a lot of this, from the masculine experiencing this right now, needs to come into a state that some of this fear is still effectively there to a certain degree. That a sense of self is almost amplifying right now as it relates to the pathwork going forward. Because this is masculine energy coming into a point in separation, in taking accountability for the self in the past. But now almost looking at circumstances and situations and asking yourself, is there something that can be repaired there? Is there something that I can bring forth to that to heal it? Or is this something that I need to hold as a heavy lesson going forward? So even now we see that there's a lot of that friction happening for some of the masculine energy and separation, because that understanding of full accountability of the self, we see this. It's creating a moment for masculine right now of an uncertainty as it relates to how to move forward. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union. This is more about that energetic equivalent of that holding space for those unnameable fears. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between the Tower energy and our Two of Swords. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Swords in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. This modality is actually, I feel like I have to stress, like this is coming into a deep sense of empowerment right now for feminine energy in the divine union frequency. So one of the things that we're effectively seeing, and I think even now we're recognizing the divine union frequency, this is the feminine energy navigating their own ability to potentially make mountains out of molehills, right? What did I say about this right now? The divine union energy, moving in a state or space where you feel like a lot of needs can be fulfilled, can sometimes inspire, I want to say, that energetic, like pickiness. I think that's the best way I can kind of explain this, right? And even now we see that there's a lot of feminine energy in the divine union frequency, processing and asking oneself if there's something here that they're feeling that feels like it is a legitimized anxiety point, or if this is feminine energy taking something small and making it big. I have to stress here the ability for the feminine energy to have this point of observation and discernment is the gift of feminine energy. This is feminine energy coming into their own strength of power in alignment with masculine energy, because this is feminine energy that is navigating that within the self, because they are very protective of what they bring forth to the masculine. See how that works? This is a feminine energy. Again, the divine union. What did I tell you about the divine union frequency? The divine union frequency operates in a space or state wherein you recognize that you want to work in service towards the other's needs, but you also don't want to energetically deplete another person. So what is the feminine energy in divine union doing? They are navigating situations and circumstances as it relates to personal needs, anxieties, doubts, fears, to amplify whether those are things that can actually reach adjustment in partnership, or whether those are moments that feminine just needs to deal with it. Like, I don't want to say that in a way. I don't mean like just deal with it, but I think if you know what I mean, then you know what I mean. Like, it's like that moment of saying like, nah, this is just like an internal thing I'm going through. I just need to like navigate that and figure out how to move forward in that way. Okay. So a lot of the feminine energies effectively going through that to a certain extent, because this is feminine energy that doesn't want to overburden masculine energy that they see and appreciate, will literally bend over backwards to try to please them. What do we do when we care about someone and we see the fact that they want to bend over backwards to please them? We don't want to deplete that. We want to honor that space, right? And we see that for the masculine, seeing a feminine energy that is simultaneously moving in that directionality, even now, that is again the amplification point of masculine, feeling the security of the feminine energy. Because this is masculine that appreciates the fact that this is a feminine that doesn't necessarily feel like they're always running to masculine with their needs. This is feminine energy that effectively, again, discerns and utilizes the differentiation point between an energy that's always there to lend assistance versus an energy that you effectively only call upon when you need them. So even now we see that energetically that ability of navigating that to a certain extent is effectively affirming the strength of the divine union partnerships. Masculine and feminine that are in this modality coming into divine union, this is even now, and I need to stress this, why we see that there is a hilarious energetic complementary situation here happening between the fact that we see that this is feminine energy that is moving more slowly and a masculine energy that's trying to move more quickly. Why? Because feminine energy cares about something. What is feminine energy doing with the thing that they care about? They're moving more slowly. Masculine energy, because they don't want to change or disrupt the connection. Masculine energy is feeling that energetic connection. What does masculine want to do? Wants to rush forward, right? Wants to do everything they can to like gravitate, to have some kind of tangibles, to fixate upon that, if you will. You know? So we see here that energetically right now, even in this modality of coming into divine union, it feels like the complementary energetic frequency. And I need to stress here, so help me, there's some energy right now that may be having some doubts, some fears cropping up right now. This is why we see that there may be some points of accommodation coming in. Because again, that moment right now is potentially coming through to fortify around someone caring about something so much that they let all the doubts and fears override the certainty of something. And even now we see that that is some frustrating territory that needs to be navigated. This is like the turbulent energy that is effectively coming through right now. But what is happening for the energy that's moving in this way? For masculine energy, seeing a feminine energy moving through a point of crisis, holding forth, if you will. There's something about masculine feeling that reaffirming effort or energy of seeing how a feminine navigated a point of crisis here that is, again, reaffirming the divine, like moving into divine union, if you will. While for masculine energy, for the feminine energy, your own ability to navigate through those uncertainties, those doubts, those fears right now, this is also effectively coming to bear. So energetically right now, we love this because we see that a lot of the energy coming into divine union right now, it feels like there is a beautiful balance that is occurring here. And energetically, what's nice about this, and I have to stress this, the funny thing about it is it's coming through a point of conflict. Not letting that conflict energy disrupt, but in a way reaffirming it. And feminine effectively, again, holding forth, recognizing their own boundaries, doing what they need to do. And we see now, and this is where we see the energy that's in separation. Because again, feminine energy, stepping back, if you will, taking that modality point, effectively, again, even at a point of separation, what we are identifying here is this is feminine energy that feels like they're watching a crisis effectively unfold between them and some masculine energy that they're effectively moving away from right now. Because this is feminine energy that is holding themselves back from their own desire and need to fix something. This is feminine energy coming into their own pathwork and saying, I recognize what is and is not my responsibility to fix. So even now, we see that there's something here, that this is almost feminine energy saying, you know, if you need me, I will be here. But I'm not going to step in and try to fix this. This is feminine energy basically saying, I need the masculine energy to be able to acknowledge that there's that point of need. There needs to be that point of accountability. And even now we see that a lot of the feminine energy in separation is operating in this space or place. Especially if there's masculine energy that is just trying to create more crisis energy. This is feminine energy that's almost saying to a certain extent, my job isn't to come in and save you from a point of crisis. My job is effectively to articulate and identify. This is feminine energy in separation that's almost amplifying the fact of saying, this isn't okay. All right. This is a little okay. Feminine energy right now is potentially experiencing in separation some moment that someone's trying to amplify a crisis to be able to unify back into union. And what's hard about this right now is feminine may be feeling like there's some kind of energetic crisis here that feels like, in a way, it's trying to like navigate through feminine energy's own boundaries here, right? There's some kind of observation point that needs to be made right now with some masculine energy. If this is masculine energy that's trying to move towards feminine and saying like, I need you, there's something really bad happening. This is almost feminine energy saying like, I'm not here just to save you from circumstances and situations. I need to stress here, this is feminine energy that's almost saying, can you not understand that even now, if you're moving towards me and saying that this is a crisis point, that this is feminine energy saying, I'm not in the modality of being a caretaker. And that if there's like a crisis point here, that doesn't change what I'm asking you to bring forward. It is amplifying the fact that there's probably a crisis because I'm not there to do all of the supportive energy that you're effectively anticipating and expecting me to do. This is feminine energy almost pointing out to some masculine energy, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. That point of saying, exactly. If we are in separation and there is a crisis that is effectively occurring, maybe that is a moment for you to observe and acknowledge the fact that you weren't taking into full consideration exactly how much I was doing. So what we effectively see here that's very hard for some of the feminine is seeing and experiencing this right now around some of the energy. This is the differentiation point I need to stress of feminine almost looking at someone and saying, when I was in a point of crisis, you moved away from me. You can't ask me to come back because you are now in a point of crisis. That isn't a correction point. That is affirming that you're effectively this is the whole point. That it is not a need-based situation through which we need to build partnership. You need to be able to bring something forth energetically as it relates to an emotional investiture of a connection. Masculine energy right now, we may be seeing that a lot of the masculine energy in separation right now may be going through a moment or experience right now that is amplifying and articulating upon, again, a situation of feminine that's trying to amplify the crisis that masculine coming forward from a state of honesty brought forth to a certain degree. And this is why we see that for a lot of the masculine energy in separation, this could feel very heavy too. Because if this is feminine saying, like, look at the disaster that you've brought forth, this could be masculine energy in separation saying, that disaster is me. That's me. That's me just showing you who I am. That's me just letting you truly see who I am. And this is, again, that moment or modality that may be very heavy for some of the masculine energy, because this is where we see that the pathwork of masculine coming into their own expression of self or their true version of self, especially if there was like a world of illusion that they were building around the feminine prior to this point. This could be masculine being like, I understand it. I get it. I see how me not moving authentically now may feel like a crisis for them because they didn't necessarily sign up for it, right? So we're almost identifying and recognizing what is coming through right now, that sense of space or accountability, if you will. Both energies in separation, taking that point of acknowledging what they need to work on their own pathwork going forward. So it's not moving forward and saying, like, I just have no responsibility on this. It's coming from a space of these energies in separation saying, I am taking my share. I understand what is and is not in my power to karmically work through. But almost, again, investing and saying, I have to draw the line in terms of my own responsibility and what I can change versus what needs to be accepted. So we see even now, this is some heavy pathwork for the energy right now in the divine coming in separation. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Two of Swords in combination with our Nine of Swords. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our Fool in its reversal, which is, again, this is a lot of that pathwork that we're effectively seeing that is happening right now, even in separation. Because even now we see that a lot of this work right now, it's heavy. It's difficult. It's not the type of work that we see in separation that we would aspire to. But we see that point, that understanding is almost the recognition that is allowing for a lot of that energetic breakthrough right now. Because again, the energy that's coming through in a positive fashion and the energy that's coming through in terms of healing isn't amplifying a crisis point and saying, like, I need you, where are you? It's coming towards each other and saying, I left you at a time that you needed me. I moved you into a point of crisis. You moved away from me because something reached a crisis point. I am ready to take accountability. How are my own changes that were necessary? So the energy right now that's healing, like the energy that's truly healing, that's coming back into union right now, because there are some energies here that we're seeing. Like there's a small portion here that there is this energetic work of being able to heal, coming back on the pathwork going back, is the point of understanding the difference of saying, I need you, to saying, I understand that is not the way I should come towards you. I understand that I should have been looking on what I need to give you instead of saying what I need from you. So this is that moment that we're effectively seeing right now. And even now, the problem with this that's potentially happening for some of the energy in separation is potentially feeling some of that energy coming back to you right now and saying, I need I need, instead of saying, I would like to give. I would like to give. I would like to give. So that moment right now is being amplified, especially if there's energy here of feminine in separation with masculine, and masculine feels like they tried to come forward from a state of truth, and feminine wasn't able to accept that openness and truth. And then feminine saying, I need this from masculine. This is masculine saying, well, I'm not just here to serve and keep giving to you. You need to be able to meet me as well, right? This is that balancing point. And if there's masculine energy here, feminine energy that is moving away from masculine, because again, this is feminine that was looking for masculine, that was able to meet them and also meet their needs. And there's masculine energy trying to come towards feminine going, I need you. This is feminine going, you still don't seem to understand that I'm not here to serve as like a point of like giving you something. It's not just what I'm here for. You have to think about what you want to give forth. So we see here, even energetically, these energies in separation. This is heavy path work that's leading you into coming into connectivity. And even now, if the energies are coming back into connection, there's a lot of grief that has to be bared here, because it's that observation point in someone potentially coming back and saying, I understand what I wasn't giving you. I understand what I wasn't providing. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union right now, this is that moment that's the breakthrough energy. This is that moment that feels like you're coming up for air, if you will, because this is that moment that, again, experiencing something that may have led to a lot of separation points in the past, now fortifying a connection. It feels like that beautiful moment of relief. Because that's that moment of, again, someone saying like, what you think is a burden is not a burden. Who made you think that was a burden? That's that energetically equivalent of being able to hold space for each other, is like going to feel a lot like the energy coming into divine union is like that inevitability factor of just almost seeing and being like, I don't see anything here that is too great a burden. This is the energy saying, I'm choosing you because you've shown me your burdens, and they don't feel like they're that heavy. I'm used to holding heavier. That's like, give me your bag kind of energy. Like, that's nothing. I can carry that. Masculine and feminine in the divine union frequency. This is why I'm telling you this energy is more pesky right now in the divine union frequency. Because this is about sweating the small stuff. This is like all those little anxieties and fears. Like, this is like the I can't figure out where my keys are kind of energy. This is agonizing on something you feel like you may not necessarily, worrying about things that you may not necessarily have like taken into consideration, is building that like little bit of anxiety point here, which is why we see a lot of the energy working very hard right now in those spaces and places of nuance, to almost energetically protect what you've kind of found so far. Finding that space of not letting yourself get triggered around that, but instead utilizing it productively right now is very important. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our Knight of Swords in combination with our Queen of Swords and its upright, Knight of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Queen of Swords upright. One card to clarify. Yeah, Four of Pentacles in its upright. I'm not surprised to see this right now. So again, what is this? Look at this. What is this sense, this anxiety, these unnameable fears and anxieties? What are they doing right now energetically to masculine and feminine energy? Bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For masculine energy, it's heavier to bear right now, right? Because masculine energy, this is going to feel more like masculine. This is that activation energy of wanting to effectively look for a problem to solve. What happens when you're navigating something that is an unnameable anxiety point, an unnameable fear? You're almost operating in that state or space where it may feel like it's a little bit more anxiety inducing within you. So what are you doing? You're taking a page from the feminine's book. Guess what? I hate to break it to you. Feminine are bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Feminine are like, welcome to the existence of being in the feminine energy. Feminine energy is like my job, my ability, my superpower is figuring out every which way something could go wrong. This is my entire existence, is working in every facility to think in this fashion. This is like what I do. This is all I do. This is all the shop is running 24/7. It's all it's doing. It just runs through the scenarios. It just runs through the scenarios. Just runs through the scenarios. Feminine's like, I know how to shut it off. Feminine's like, I know how to do this. This is feminine being like, welcome to my existence. To masculine energy that's moving in this state of divine union. This is masculine being like, I've got these unnameable fears. And feminine's like, where have you been? Like, yeah. And so again, what are they doing? They're helping each other share the burden. Helping each other share the burden of that experience. And feminine being like, I know, it's hard, it's unnameable. You know, you just gotta like ground it, right? So this is why even now we see that finding that like moderation point, finding a way to channel that and put it in a productive space. It's almost like feminine's helping masculine learn to ground through that feeling. So masculine and feminine that are coming into divine union, this is going to feel more productive, right? This is going to feel more productive because again, and I need to stress here, I need to stress for the energy going through this right now, it is super important that masculine, you do not let your anxieties and fears right now send you off on crazy little side quest. What is this? What is this right now? What am I seeing here? I swear, masculine energy, do not let your imagination get the better of you right now. Because we see here, what are we seeing that's happening right now? We are seeing that there's something that is happening right now for the connection. The feminine is moving at a slower pace. They are asking masculine to cool their jets a few little bit. Why? Because feminine energy needs to see consistency in masculine to feel safe, seen, and supported. What is some masculine energy potentially doing right now that's bringing you into separation? You are misreading a feminine that is showing you through their care and their caution just how important something is, and you're letting your mind potentially run wild on everything it could be instead of what the feminine is telling you it is. So I'm telling you right now, masculine energy, if you're moving into divine union right now, I want you to ground a lot of those fears that I just told you. In fact, tell them to the feminine. Not in an accusatory way. Don't put your fears on the feminine, but articulate on what you are experiencing so the feminine can correct you on it. For the love of everything holy, look at this, okay? Don't let this happen. I'm going to come out to you. I'm going to come to your house. I'm going to yell at you if you do this, okay? And you can bring them to me, and you can show them this, and you can tell them that they're in trouble, okay? Can't happen. Not on my watch, okay? Ground the fears. If you're feeling the masculine, open up about them. Don't go crazy creating these false scenarios in your head right now. Work it through with the feminine. Articulate on them. Okay? Do that path work. Don't fail the egg test. Don't go running forward right now. This is that moment of following that point of recognizing the difference between how energy moves when they care about something. I hate to break it to you, masculine. When feminine cares about something, they slow it down. They slow down. Okay? Masculine energy, when you care about stuff, you want to rush up. You want to speed up. Recognize that slowness, that care, is feminine trying to make sure that there's consistency here. And how do you build consistency? Via V reassurance. Meeting the feminine at the speed and pace that they want to move into, and recognize that that is the expression of love of the feminine. Masculine energy right now and feminine that are in separation. This is the difficult energy here, because again, if this is feminine energy that's seeing a masculine that's rushing forward to them from a need-based perspective, this is more of the amplification of feminine. And it feels a lot of this feminine energy in separation right now is potentially going through a little bit of a headache energy here. because it does feel like something effectively coming back to feminine and being like, you don't get it yet. You're still moving towards me in a fear-based modality. Like if there's something here about the masculine being evasive, or trying to find an excuse to come towards feminine, doing anything that just like leading with openness of the heart space, this is feminine almost like shaking their head and being like, you don't get it. You don't get it. It's not about you coming back to me. This is feminine almost articulating, being like, I know that you want me, but are you willing to work with me? Okay? This is feminine almost looking and being like, I'm not here to help you pass the homework assignment when it's due. I need you to show an ability to do the work with me. So we see even now for the feminine energy, this is almost trying to do something. And like, this is feminine in separation. I got to tell you right now, guys, this is feminine in separation with some energy being like, I am doing this for your own good. Because this is almost feminine energy looking towards some masculine energy that's running towards them, almost like unhealed child energy. And being like, can you not see that this is not you showing me that it's healed? You can't come towards the feminine and say, I need this, I need that. This is feminine energy that is almost trying to amplify the masculine and say, do you not see that I don't feel like it is a love offer when you say that you need me? I don't need to be needed. I need someone that wants to build with me. So we see even now that this is feminine energy that's trying to like take a bit of an approach here and trying to step back from a masculine that they feel is coming towards them too much from a need-based capacity. And doing that, unfortunately, what's so hard for a lot of the feminine in this frequency right now is they're like, I'm doing this because I love you. I'm doing this because I care about you. And even now, we even see that, that's what we're seeing here that's so effectively heavy. Masculine energy and separation right now. If this is a modality wherein the feminine is almost trying to amplify to you in separation, and saying like, you can't do this, you can't do that, I'm not okay with this. This is that amplification point, especially if this was a masculine that tried to lead forth with the feminine from a point of openness. This is masculine almost saying to feminine, saying, do you understand that you're basically saying right now that you are not okay with me? That you are not uncomfortable, that you are not comfortable with me. Because if this is healed masculine coming forward in this way, and this is feminine energy that is trying to move towards masculine and saying, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to change this, you need to change that. This is masculine saying, you're saying that you want to be with me, but you actually don't want to be with me. You want to be around the illusion of who you think I should be. You are telling me that the only way we can come forward is if you change. And that is do you understand the nuance here? Do you understand the subtle nuance that's happening here? It is the energy of, again, effectively identifying the work of recognizing who the person is versus what they can offer. And both of the energies in separation right now are moving through some of that path work. And what's hard about some of this energetic path work is, and I think, and I can see why this is so hard for some of the energy here. It's that observation point of potentially recognizing something that feels like it is a misalignment. And that's okay too, because when we can move from a point of recognizing a misalignment, we can also heal a misalignment. Because that is the acceptance point in valuing and just accepting someone through what they are and who they truly are. And then just understanding whether there's that moment that is required of energetic release to be able to find energy that feels like it is in better alignment. So even now, we see that some of that processing, it's allowing for a level or degree of peace to come through, even in energy that is effectively separating. But it's doing so in a point of acceptance and positivity, right? Even now we see that there's something there that feels like it is that point of restoration that's coming through, even in those moments of recognizing what can and cannot be expected from the other. It's heavy energy. This is heavy work that we see is happening here. But it's building that, the difference point, the metric here is the ability, and this is that, remember that borderline energy I told you right now, like on that outskirts of something, the difference between looking at something and saying, that is in my capacity to change, to be able to bring a point of productivity to something, versus saying, that's an impossibility metric. What you are asking of me, I cannot give you because it is not within me to provide. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Swords in combination with our Fool in its reversal. One card to clarify. The World in its reversal. So I know that for a lot of the energy right now that's going through this, especially in separation, this is hard work. This is heavy energy. This is that moment, and I think even now, and I have to stress this, this is that moment that may feel like a lot of energetic alignment is coming into play right now. But I need to stress here that this is almost coming into a space or state that is not effectively allowing oneself to operate in a place of illusion. It's more just coming into a point of clarity, coming into a point of observation. For masculine and feminine energy right now, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is effectively a lot of acceptance in path work that we're seeing here. And that path work is beautiful and productive in the sense that observing something in that modality, in recognizing what is in your capacity to change and adjust versus what is not, is effectively, in a way, that observation point in itself is immediately the ability to choose the direction that feels like it is in alignment to you. For feminine right now, this is that moment or opportunity that may feel like a lot of basically having to lay down some boundaries right now. Coming into a point right now that we are effectively seeing that is almost requiring the feminine energy to lay those boundaries in separation, especially around, even in separation we see here. And saying to a certain extent, it is not my necessary desire to move away from something here, but there is a desire in how much I can effectively change something versus that point of observation in terms of accepting something energetically. And that's why we see that for a lot of the feminine energy here, that point of understanding is where we see, and this is going to feel a little bit different right now, depending on the energy. There's a point I can only take you to. This is where the personal path work comes in. This is feminine energy observing something and saying, this is the nature of a circumstance or situation. And so this is either feminine energy saying, I need to accept, and we do this in everything, I need to accept that level and degree of chaos in that situation or circumstance, or I can say, or I can just say no to it. I can move away from it. So even now we see that if there's something here happening, this is feminine energy effectively asking them their own self, what is something that they feel that they can navigate, or what is something that feels like it is too chaotic, too uncontrollable. And that is coming through with the feminine laying down their own personal boundaries with intentionality. So that even now, if there's something of feminine going back into something and it's chaotic, this is at least feminine going, I accept the circumstances. I accept that moving in this direction is going to kind of bring this level or degree of chaos. I am accepting it. I am moving towards it fully, openly. Whereas again, for some of the feminine energy, this is effectively saying, I can't. I'm seeing something fully for what it is right now. I'm just saying I have to draw a halt to it and saying it is too much. But that point of observation too is allowing for new pathwork, new breakthroughs to come through. Masculine energy is also going through that same modality right now because again, in separation, there is that amplification point that is seeing, which is a feminine energy that may be saying to a certain degree. This is either masculine energy coming towards feminine right now and saying, I observe how the way I was moving towards you in the past was bringing in chaos. especially if like things became chaotic and then I fled and now things are good for you. I'm starting to see the fact that like the variable may have been me. This is masculine looking at this right now and recognizing their own pathwork and saying, I understand what I need to build towards you, that you're not in a space or state of effectively having to like create a safe home for me or a haven. I'm supposed to build it with you. So we see here, this is either masculine energy coming forth and bringing this to the door of the feminine, saying, I am bringing this forward as a point of acknowledgement. This is even masculine energy saying, I'm not doing this for the sake of coming back into union. I'm doing this with a sense of accountability. I'm doing this so you can recognize that I see it now too. So a lot of this is feeling like there's some masculine energy and separation coming into a lot of deep healing journey with some feminine, but it's starting with that point of observation and saying, I understand now. And almost saying to the feminine, I am telling you because you deserve to know. Or this is masculine energy experiencing a situation or circumstance. If they tried to bring forward to feminine their openness, their honesty, and feminine energy is saying, I can't. No. What's that? No, I don't want that. You need to do this. You know, that aspect of yourself, these things, this like whatever you're building here, like that is not something I want to see. This is masculine almost saying to feminine, if this has led to a point of rejection, and feminine almost saying to the masculine, like, you know, you have to make these points of adjustment. This is masculine almost saying the difference. And I need to stress this between the masculine saying what you are asking me to change about myself is me. This isn't something like this is, you see how this pathwork starts to get so hairy? Because this is the difference between saying to someone, I need you to like contribute more versus someone saying, I need you to change who you are fundamentally, right? So that point of nuance here is happening right now for the masculine saying, there's things that are in my power to change. And then there are the things that I am. And masculine saying, I am, like, if what I am brings disruption to you, if who I am brings chaos to you, then that's just an amplification of something that effectively needs to be surrendered, because that's a moment that the masculine's basically saying to some feminine right now, what you are asking of me isn't in the realm of what can be modified and adjusted. This is just the embodiment of who I am. So even now we see this is some like deep fine tuning that's happening in separation right now, but it's coming through again, the point of acceptance. This is what keeps coming through in what is in our power to change versus what is not. And even now, both of these energies right now are experiencing moments that are amplifying the difficulty and the discernment between something that one is being asked to change that is actually something that can be changed versus something that you say, that is me. That is my essence. That is something within me. I cannot fix that. If you do not like that, then you do not effectively actually like me. And even now we see that that is some heavy energy to navigate. Masculine and feminine energy right now, moving into divine union. Masculine saw something in the feminine about the way to handle the masculine in that moment that feels like the counterpart energy, because this is masculine and feminine coming into divine union. What did I say? It's not the fact that the energy doesn't bring a little bit of chaos to one another, but the chaos feels like it's productive. It's like it's a light burden. It's not that hard to bear. It's that manageability factor, effectively, which is amplifying and bringing a lot of energy into divine union. And this is, again, feminine energy, masculine appreciating feminine energy's ability to navigate through difficult circumstances and situations. Feminine appreciating a masculine that honors the feminine's boundaries. And for the energy right now in divine union, this is a little bit more of a struggle point, because this energy isn't affirming and committing the energy together. It's more about nuance, recognizing the nuances of what you bring to one another. And even now we see that there's a little bit, it may feel like a little bit of disharmony in the divine union frequency, but that's because like there's more than one way to like do something. And we see how even now, like utilizing that discernment is just like amplifying the difference between how feminine wants to move and how the masculine wants to move right now. But even now we see that that is creating a state or space of wanting to overcome and observing some feelings of energetic chaos that are coming through to be able to find efficiencies and ways to like smooth things out, if you will. That's the productivity that we see in identifying a problem as opposed to avoiding it. Continuing to get clarification here between our Four of Pentacles in combination with our World card in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Look at this. This is what we like to see. Masculine and feminine energy right now. Feminine energy and separation. This is really a beautiful moment. I mean, it's painful. I get that. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Especially right now, I have to stress, if there is some energy right now that is trying to come towards feminine at a moment and is like amplifying the chaotic situation or circumstance, this is feminine energy, like almost effectively holding forth to a certain degree. Because what is the difference here? And I need to say, there's a level or degree of discernment that needs to be reached in circumstances and situations right now for feminine and separation to help identify energy that is truly healed versus energy that's just kind of coming back into some kind of repetition of a cycle. And that is the difference between an energy that is amplifying a need for help, saying, I need you, something bad is happening, I need you here, in a moment that you are already in separation, versus an energy that is able to come forward to feminine and say, I acknowledge that I acknowledge the chaos. I acknowledge the conflict. I acknowledge my role in creating chaotic and energy in your life. This is masculine energy coming towards the feminine and saying, I identify and recognize how I created some of that energy that may have led to points of separation here. That ability of recognizing right now the difference between the accountability factor of an energy that says, I recognize that I was leaning on you too much. I recognize that I was looking for you to be a supportive system instead of working together with you and creating that supportive environment around ourselves right now. That is the energy of feminine having to navigate some circumstances and situations, and it is requiring a bit of a fine-tooth comb, if you will. Because that's the difference of a feminine saying, like, feminine is not opposed to accepting that energetic difficulty point. Feminine needs to be in a space or place of someone that recognizes and acknowledges it. And even now we see that there's a point of balance that feminine is realizing and recognizing in separation, that feminine is becoming very grounded. Because if this is feminine energy that's becoming grounded in separation, this is feminine energy that's finding a better way to identify where some of that chaos may have been coming from, that may have been laid at their doorstep. Masculine energy, if you are in separation, we see that there's also a moment here that is feeling, again, like a point of, again, releasing anything that isn't karmically serving you right now in this observation point. And we see, to a certain extent, for some of the masculine energy in this modality right now, we've got two different masculine energies coming through on this right now. This is either masculine energy coming through in a modality wherein there is some kind of separation here that you may have found yourself in. And you're going through right now this moment of chaotic energy that you're suddenly realizing and identifying just how much of supportive energy you were receiving from a feminine. And that point of understanding may be leading you into a space or place of breakthrough energy that is helping you recognize your own pathwork in the past and potentially leaning too heavily on feminine energy for that supportive environment right now that is allowing you accountability going forward. Or we are seeing here that there is pathwork that is effectively happening right now in relation to masculine energy that brought forward some truth to feminine. tried to open up to feminine, and it led to a rejection point. And this could be heavy path work for masculine, because if this is feminine energy that's saying what you've opened up to me on is too much. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't be this. You can't be that. We can't do that. This is masculine that's going through a moment or modality and saying, I can't change those things about myself. What you are asking from me is not a space or place of tangible modification. You are asking me to remove something that is inherently within me. So even now we see that that's a lot of that clearing of karmic cycle for both masculine and feminine, and it has to do with identifying the reality of the comfort level of the feminine energy. Now, masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, this is that energy about feminine being able to ground through points of chaos. Masculine energy is feeling that security and stability of coming into divine union right now with some feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. That was identified or articulated upon the way feminine moves in a moment of conflict. This is almost just feeling that viability point coming in, something that was observed here, which is rushing the masculine forward to a certain degree. While what's happening for feminine? Feminine energy is moving in a more slow pace. Feminine energy is feeling more grounded because seeing masculine operate in the same way has been grounding the feminine energy. It's building that point of stability. The problem now is the fact that now masculine wants to escalate forward on things. Feminine's taking a more slow approach. That is the energy that is so frustrating right now in the divine union frequency, because this is going to feel a little bit more frustrating for masculine, because the masculine right now is feeling that sense of, like, for the energy in the divine union, that unnameable anxiety, the things that you can't control, if you will. Feminine's a lot better at grounding through it to a certain extent. Feminine's almost using discernment to identify and decide what they feel like can actually be motivated and moved upon versus what is just like those unnameable anxieties that crop up when things are moving in a productive fashion. Masculine, you're having a little bit harder time working through this right now, but you're taking some pages from the feminine's book in terms of feminine being really, 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 really good at navigating through unnameable fears. Or unaddressable anxieties, if you will. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now, Queen of Wands in its reversal. So masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. You know, this is the, I need to stress this is something that's really important that's coming through right now for the divine union frequency, which is, again, how do I articulate on this? This is feminine energy doubting in their own self, doubting in their own abilities, doubting in their own, I'm telling you here, this is that slowdown that we're seeing right now for a lot of the feminine energy here. This is feminine energy that's working through a lot of this path work about becoming their truest self. And this is, again, masculine that is, like, effectively, again, working in the divine union energy that feels to a certain extent that it's almost like this constant affirmation to feminine in the divine union frequency, saying, you know, I've got your back. I've got your back. I've got your back, effectively. Masculine, to a certain extent, one of the anxiety points here, and we're seeing this, there's this feeling of masculine, especially for the energy in the divine union. I got to stress this. I keep seeing this coming up for the energy coming into divine union. Masculine, you have to trust the feminine here. If this is a feminine energy, masculine, that's asking to slow something down, this is not a feminine energy that is looking to slow something down because they don't want to move with you. This is feminine energy that is trying to show you that their own ability to move slowly is their sense of care and consideration that they're putting in something to be able to validate and make sure that you are going to hold to the consistency that you're trying to bring forth in something right now. What's problematic for some of the energy, and I was telling you right now, some energy is going to fall into separation over this, making some base assumption that seeing a feminine energy wanting to move slower is indicating something about the feminine doing something different than what you aspire to, that's because masculine energy, when you slow things down, it's because you're not sure about things. When feminine energy is sure about something, they slow things down because they're worried about messing it up. So make sure that you don't get caught in that trap of assuming the worst from an energy that is telling you and articulating to you that they're moving in a conscientious way. So help me. Masculine and feminine in separation. This is that modality that we're effectively seeing right now, wherein the feminine is looking at a circumstance or situation. If this is masculine energy, and it's even now, this is feminine energy. If this is masculine energy, this is so nuanced right now. I can see how frustrating it is. Masculine energy coming towards the feminine and saying, I need you, is not the same as I love you. I need you is not the same as I love you, right? We need lots of things. We give love. We don't need love. We give love. So being able to identify this right now is so difficult for the feminine, because this is feminine energy that is feeling the amplification and separation of an energy that may be saying, I need you, and being like, that is not the same as I love you. Okay? And even now, this is hard because this is feminine energy that's feeling like they have to express and try to articulate the nuance to some masculine energy about the inner child saying, I need you, versus saying, I want you, versus saying, I love you. I want to give forth to you. I want to build with you. So even now for the feminine, it is difficult because it's like, how do you express this for some of the masculine energy that's not necessarily in that modality? Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, because it can almost feel like feminine energy navigating an unhealed inner child. A little child comes up to you and goes, I need you. And it's like, yeah, I know you need me because you can't do things on your own. Right? Masculine energy. There's something happening right now in separation, where in this observation point, in understanding the feminine in separation, is building this point of observation. Because we see here that for a lot of the masculine energy here, there could be this like degree or desire of understanding of the self right now, that you're trying to go back to some circumstances and situations with this energetic signature saying, I see it now. I get it. I understand. The problem with some of the masculine energy in this modality right now is the feeling of potentially feeling the articulation of something being a little too late. Almost feeling that like regret, like stopping yourself before you start, because it's almost that moment that you're putting your own doubts and you're doing it again. You're putting your own doubts and fears on another person, saying, how could they ever? How could they ever? I would never forgive me. I would never forgive me. Well, you're not you. So maybe that's that moment too. Again, recognizing that internal cycle going, you're trying to think for another person. There you go. You're doing it again. Catch yourself. Stop it. Move with intentionality. Don't move worrying about what the other person will say or do. Just move from your heart space being open. Masculine energy, a lot of the masculine energy in the healing cycle is almost coming to that point of understanding too. There could be a separation point happening in recognizing that you effectively revealing yourself to some feminine energy. The difference between, again, a feminine energy asking something from you because they are in that state of saying, again, I need you to give forth to the partnership in the way that I need you to give forth, versus an energy saying, I need you to fundamentally change who you are to be able to stay in partnership with me. This is all of that nuance that's coming into balance right now. Nobody gets triggered. That's all I'm going to say. Nobody speak from that trigger point, because there's a lot of triggering energy here. I want you to put a lot of care and consideration in terms of how you're articulating things. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, If you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading and pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I want to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing with me in these messages. And we will do this again tomorrow.